Wow, things are crazy out there. Wish you were in another country? Who doesn't? You know what can help the internet think you are? NordVPN! You can learn more and try the NordVPN 2-year plan plus 4 months extra by going to nordvpn.com/moviebob or follow the link in the description, risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. VPNs help you, your PC, your workstation, your tablet, your whatever. I'm an old guy, we just called it the computer. Be in more than one place at one time, even if you're not. Are you trying to look up the classic or hard-to-find movies, TV series, or games I talk about on my channel, but find they're only available to view or stream in certain regions? It happens to me all the time, and NordVPN can help with that. In an age where more and more content is getting restricted, siloed, or censored, NordVPN is all about making the internet more free and letting you see and share more information. The way the web ought to be. Like I said, check it out for yourself and see what you might have been missing. Click the link in the description or go to nordvpn.com/moviebob to get the NordVPN 2-year plan plus 4 months extra risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. And now, on to the show.
I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
So the new Jurassic World movie, part 7 of this now 32-year-long series, can you believe it, is now in theaters, and you can see my review here. I actually liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to like it, not because I don't like Jurassic Park movies, I generally always like a dinosaur movie at least a little bit, but because I generally don't like Gareth Edwards movies, but you can watch the review for that. In that review, I also kind of ended up digressing a little bit from the what's the movie about and is this movie good or not track, and started going on about the one part that kind of made me roll my eyes about the last couple of these, and then I realized I was kind of straying enough off track that I cut it down to where it was relevant, and that I could cut the longer version of those parts away from the review part into some new bits for an episode here, because, you know, why only sell one double cheeseburger when I can offer 2 burgers for twice the price? That's just math.
Logical.
And also, the thing bugging me wasn't really relevant to the actual movie, which again, I ended up more or less liking just fine on its own merits as it might otherwise have been, but it's still something I've been meaning to do some writing, video, essaying, whatever about for a little bit. This whole now long-standing situation where movies and TV shows, games now too, decide to get into meta-narrative subtext arguments with their audience about criticism, introspection, and issues of self-perception that, well, don't maybe exist, or at least don't matter, as in, you know, when you're watching the story play out and the dialogue gets spoken and it's really obvious that this is about more than just the story and the characters on screen, either in the deliberate, this is a metaphor or allegory for something, or the unintended but often even more obvious, say, screenwriter just got divorced and they're working some stuff out way, and which is fine in theory. Subtext is often the way you get depth and meaning out of art and entertainment, but I'm here talking about the increasingly common cases where you realize that the conversation is taking less the form of some actual philosophical discussion that anyone real has been having, and more the form of, oh, somebody's been reading the comments, haven't they? Huh, you're not actually supposed to do that, buddy. And look, as not just a critic, but also a creator who tries as hard as I'm able to take myself out of myself and see the media I have to cover, at least somewhat from the viewpoint of the wide majorities of people who aren't professional critics or video essayists or even internet brain-poisoned, always online media addicts, you know, bare minimum people who don't have to do any of this for a living, and maybe you just watch a few shows a week, maybe a new movie when they get a chance. I can't help but imagine that if this kind of writing and storytelling annoys me, it must be just next level, who is this even for, to them? Yes? No? Maybe?
Remember like a second ago when you pretended not to know who Iron Man was? Who is that for?
Shush, shush, shush. So, to pivot back for context, Jurassic World Rebirth is, drumroll please, the 4th installment in a row, starting with Jurassic World itself a decade ago, to try and hang a big background subtext meta-narrative around the dinosaurs themselves no longer being scary or interesting or impressive to people anymore because they've been back around long enough to just be a thing. And this is both, of course, an indictment on the failings of humankind in a fickle ecological caretakers and bad scientists sense, but also it's meant to be a wink-wink, nudge-nudge metaphor for the long-in-the-toothness of the Jurassic Park franchise itself, as in the movie going, yeah, we know, another one, huh? And Hollywood screenwriters and producers asking screenwriters to do this, I'm begging at this point. I need you to stop writing your subtext. I mean, really, stop writing movies like this in general, but really, stop making this the go-to for your subtext. Stop writing the meta-narrative of your movies as an argument or clapback or even some attempt at dialogue with whiny film school brain douchebags on social media and assholes on YouTube. like me. Probably the most egregious example of this was the Star Wars sequels, which were already starting from a place of questionable subtext where a new generation of filmmakers and screenwriters grappling with the uncertainty and the weight of being people who grew up on Star Wars being entrusted with inheriting the mantle of the Star Wars legacy, decided that the story should be about a new generation who grew up on Star Wars being entrusted with inheriting the mantle of the Star Wars legacy. Hence the main hero and villain having literal collectibles and both teams being in-universe nostalgia revivals of past glories. That's called making the subtext text, aka the only other trick J.J. Abrams knows how to do.
All right. We don't have any ideas for the future. We got nothing. Happy?
No.
But then when the next guy up at bat tried to do something actually interesting with all this subtext, babies on YouTube cried about it, and it seems kind of like maybe somewhere in the decision-making somebody thought that dislike buttons and shouting louder was a more meaningful metric of engagement than actual audiences, because the next movie they made, which was originally going to be directed by the Jurassic World director, funny story, and then wasn't, played out like a response to YouTube comments, and also wasn't as good, and didn't make as much money. Like, not really a crushing proof of checkmate kind of scenario, since I don't really think any of these were the best or worst example of anything, and also even that last one still made a shitload of money, just not as much as the others. But I still feel like the point still stands in as much as the internet isn't real life. People can just say stuff on here, and if the algorithms decide it does numbers, it boosts, and that doesn't mean it's popular or something real-life human beings actually think or talk about organically. And I know this for a fact because I've now watched 4 Jurassic World movies where the running meta-subtext was, it's a real bummer that everyone thinks the Jurassic movies got less good and no one cares about them now, which is why these characters, aka the movie we're watching, has to do this new thing with, like, mutant monstersauruses or whatever. And the problem isn't that self-aware or self-referential storytelling is bad so much as it's just bizarre to watch a movie do it when it's blatantly, observably false and untrue. And yeah, I know I probably sound like I'm doing the taking the setups to a punchline too literally skit here.
What's the deal with airline food? I mean, is this stuff bad or what?
Oh, that's not nice. Those chefs work really hard.
And what's with those Starbucks? Huh? They're everywhere.
A lot of people want coffee. It's supply and demand. It's the foundation of our entire economy.
But the setup as Jurassic World Rebirth opens is that despite having been unleashed on the world in the previous film, near-future Earth's general climate has proven largely inhospitable to dinosaurs, and they've either started to die off or self-segregate to island and oceanic regions around the equator. So now the museums are defunding and the zoos are closing because the last specimens in captivity are aging. Literally, everyone is tired of Jurassic Park. Get it?
Ha ha!
Except that's not true. In terms of audience response, where it counts, pretty much nobody is tired of Jurassic Park. The audience has never gotten sick of this. Every single one of these movies, even the ones people generally retroactively tend to think of as not that good, have been among the top grossing, most watched movies the year they came out, domestically and worldwide. Yes, even that last one you didn't like because it had too many characters and that goofy shit with the bugs or whatever, the 3rd biggest movie in its year of release and the 3rd movie post-COVID to get back to the 1 billion club. And the property has always been a gigantic merchandise and theme park profit leader for Universal. It's just bizarre to make the background radiation of your story this weird lament that people don't appreciate our movies anymore when everyone has always loved these movies to the tune of billions of dollars for decades.
Now here's a song that your Principal Skinner doesn't want us to play.
That's not true. This assembly was my idea. I like your brand of inoffensive pop rock.
And I want to be totally clear on this point. This is not to say that subtext is bad or movies shouldn't do it, just that it should be about something real, especially if you're going to be engaged in something resembling an argument with your audience or some other part of the popular culture at the possible expense of your story, at least in my opinion. Like, as of this recording, I have not actually watched the new Superman movie yet. I'm really excited to, and it seems like that is going to be a movie with a lot of this is clearly about something subtext going on, because James Gunn likes to just do that, but also because part of the fresh new angle here seems to be that this version of Superman is actually the new guy in a world where superheroes and all kinds of big sci-fi, fantasy, sorcery shit has been a fact of life for a long time, and he's not just the strongest guy to show up yet, but also maybe like the first guy who acts like we, the audience, expect a classic Superman-type hero to act, whereas the rest of the DCU heroes we've seen so far in stuff like Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, parts of the Suicide Squad, which I guess kind of still counts, maybe, are all kind of dark, anti-heroic, and this Justice Gang team in the movie seemed like a deliberate parody of an MCU-style corporate militia team. Like, for real, I get the sense that there's a strong undercurrent of fuck you to the version of this genre popularized into homogeneity by the company that betrayed me, James Gunn in particular, happening here? And you know what? If so, he's earned it. But if so, and also execution dependent, but something else James Gunn has more than earned is presumptive benefit of the doubt, that subtext and cultural engagement with or against, or at least about things that are actually real, topics that exist, subjects that are in discussion, stuff that prospectively has substance and weight and merit that's actually going on. The reason it feels so absurd and maybe even a little, I don't know, whiny, maybe not whiny, but certainly defensive in a way that's not necessary for the Jurassic World franchise to keep setting up its thematic identity as this defiant work standing against a cultural tide, trying to ignore it into irrelevance and demanding the attention it deserves is, again, the culture has never stopped paying attention, and the attention has been overwhelmingly positive, except from pretty much just movie critics. And I promise you, nobody cares what we think. People, especially kids, the audience, have never stopped loving and going to see Jurassic Park movies. It's been this astoundingly consistent success story for 32 years, but for 10 of those years, I've been watching the same series make self-pitying allegorical references to this vague sense of pop cultural rejection that just doesn't exist outside of digital echo chambers of nattering that big-scale blockbuster media is supposed to be able to ignore at this level. It's like if the Hobbit movies had started making weird references to the ancient wars started because the high councils of Middle-earth theater awards didn't give a proper number of trophies to the mythology genre after the first trilogy had won all the Oscars.
And you stood in their way.
No, I didn't. I even came in early and made orange drink.
And if you think this is kind of annoying now, just wait till the Marvel movies start making all the money again instead of only a lot of the money, because I guarantee you you're going to get at least a whole phase where so much of the not at all subtle buried subtext for dozens of characters and or entire movies is, nobody gave us a chance, everyone stopped caring, and that's what caused whatever terrible thing is now driving the plot. Oh yeah, that's coming. Trust me on this one. I've been down this road a bunch of times before on the comic side. That's absolutely coming. They are going to do some awful shit, do a bunch of characters you forgot existed from Phase 4 and 5, and it's going to be your fault for not buying the t-shirts. The die is already cast.